Breaking tonight, more reaction pouring into the firing of former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Joining me now with reaction to that and more, California Congressman Darrell Issa. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us tonight on Justice. I mean, what's your take on the firing of McCabe?
Judge, it's about time. You know, under the last administration, whether it was Benghazi or Fast and Furious, the IRS targeting of conservatives, nobody was held accountable. Everyone got to retire or even stay on the job. This is really the first time the American people are seeing at least some responsibility for somebody who clearly misled, didn't do his job, and then changed his story when administrations changed.
You know, you make a very good point. I really didn't think of it that way. I'm over here saying it's not enough. You lied. If Flynn lies to the FBI, he's a felon. Martha Stewart lies to the FBI, she goes to jail. This guy lies to the FBI, and everybody's bent out of shape. He didn't get his pension. Really? You know, there needs to be an indictment as far as I'm concerned. But you make a good point, you know, that nothing has been done like this. But I'm convinced that Strzok and Page are next, that the whole thing is going to come tumbling down. But let's talk about it. You were on Oversight and Reform, and earlier I had on Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and he talked about the fact that it's so difficult that right now they only have 3,000 of the 1.9 or 1.5 million, whatever the number was, documents that they've subpoenaed. First of all, they don't have them, and how do you possibly get through them? How do you do this?
It's an amazing process. You know, you word search, you tell them what you want, they identify the number, and then they slowly go through them, deciding what to redact. And it's almost like, you know, trying to ask for the documents from the Manhattan Project. They do it with human beings. They do it slowly. This is a problem that congressional oversight has under both Republicans and Democrats. They won't give you the raw documents, and then we can talk about what needs to be redacted afterwards. I'll give you an example. Eric Holder, of course, was held in contempt, 7 years ago for withholding documents. He said there were 200. We just recently, a matter of days ago, began getting additional documents and discovered that he had deliberately withheld a whole category of documents that they're now going back through and identifying, and they'll give to oversight. So Brian Terry dies in 2011. We're still trying to get justice for this Border Patrolman's family. And, you know, to bring up the president's trip to California, you know, he was out there looking at these fences and wall designs that are going to save lives. People like Brian Terry shouldn't die in the desert because they're out in the open and they're targets for the bad guys.
Well, you know, one of the things that, you know, is so frustrating about all of this is that so much time, instead, the eyes are being taken off of all the successes of this administration and all of the benefits. I mean, the regulations that have been reduced, you know, the improvement in the economy, the unemployment at this all-time low. And yet, you know, we've got people who are criticizing this president and a fantasy about Russian collusion. I mean, what do you say? I mean, you're leaving Congress. You've announced you're not going to run again. I'd love to know why. We'll get to that in a minute. But what do you think of our, you know, your fellow colleagues who are like, I know there's collusion. I know there is. I haven't found it yet. And the sky's falling.
Well, you know, if you spend this long looking for something and you haven't gotten the first whiff of it, obviously you have to question why you're still looking. But, you know, I'll put it in perspective. I'm as you say, I'm leaving Congress after 18 years, but I also am an old Reaganite. You know, if you go back through history, what you'll discover is when Reagan was putting tariffs on anti-dumping by foreign countries, there was this terrible, you know, oh my goodness, the sky is falling, we're becoming protectionist. And now Donald Trump actually mirrors a just different country. It's now China primarily. He's beginning to look at sanctions against dumping into the market, predatory dumping that's hurting American companies. And all of a sudden, the same groups are out there saying, oh, it's all ending. They'll tell you how great Reagan was, but they forget to tell you that many of the things that Reagan had to do during his administration are the same things Donald Trump's having to do. Roll back regulations, stop the endless growth of government, make America safe for our people by reinforcing the military, and yes, unshackle American creativity by putting business out front as heroes rather than villains.
Well, we're not going to have enough time, Congressman, to ask why you're leaving, so we'll save it for next time. But Congressman Darrell Issa, it's so good to have you on Justice again. Thanks.